Hello and welcome to Real People, Real Lives. I'm Sandy. On this show, we explore the stories of everyday people, their struggles, successes, and the experiences that make them unique. Each episode brings you a fresh perspective from someone with a story to tell. Let's jump in. One of the goals of Real People, Real Lives is to create a space where people can talk openly about the experiences that shape them, especially the difficult ones. And grief and loss are things that so many people carry, yet they're often not talked about openly. Hearing how others continue living, loving, and moving forward after loss can really help people feel less alone. Today, I'm joined by Denys Meade. She's a wonderful woman who I met about 7 years ago when I was working in radio. Denys is someone who has experienced profound loss, but continues to move forward with strength and honesty. She lost her son at the age of 29, her granddaughter to suicide at the age of 14, and has also lost her husband and her mother just months apart. Despite these unimaginable losses, Denys is willing to share her story so that others who are experiencing grief may feel less alone. I'm grateful she's here today to talk with us. Welcome, Denys, and thank you so much for joining us today. I know that it's a difficult story to tell, and I very much appreciate the fact that you're willing to talk to us about this today.
You're welcome. I think it's important.
Me too. So before we talk about the losses that you've experienced in your life, can you just tell us a little bit about your son, about your granddaughter, your mom, your husband, your whole family dynamic in general?
Sure. Because it's going to come around full circle. So my husband at the time and I had 2 children, a girl and a boy, and I had already had a daughter. So unfortunately, that marriage didn't work out. But my son, he was just a charismatic kind of guy. Like, everybody loved being with him. He was like the life of the party kind of person, you know, very sweet and very caring. He had 2 daughters, which he loved more than anything. And he unfortunately passed from an overdose of heroin. It was laced with fentanyl. And so when they found him, he must have passed like right away because the needle was still in his arm. So he didn't even get it all. That's how powerful the fentanyl is.
Oh my gosh.
Fentanyl, however you say, yeah. So, you know, he had his demons and he, you know, was clean for a while, then wasn't, and, you know, kind of went back and forth. So he was 29 at the time. And it was, of course, the worst thing to happen to a mom. And I just have actually never been the same since. He passed in 2014. So the hardest thing to do was see everybody, his friends, his daughters, you know, grow up, and he's not there. I felt kind of so sorry for him that he wasn't able to, you know, go through everything that he should have gone through with his daughters. Yeah. So it got to be where my love of him was grief. That's the only, you know, the utter sadness of it all. And I carried that with me for a very long time. I still carry it with me. It's just not as, whatever you want to say. What is that word?
Deliberate? Debilitating.
Debilitating and everything. But it was terrible. And then, you know, people don't know what to say to you. And then people, you know, say, oh, I know how you feel. I lost my mother. Well, no. You don't know how I feel if you lost your mother and I lost my son.
You know, that's a really good point, because I think that, and I lost my mom 2 years ago. She was 75. I do think that there is, for some people, a profound difference between losing someone in their 70s, their 80s, who has lived a longer life, and losing someone at such a young age. And personally, I feel like grief is so different in that case because not only are you grieving for yourself, but you are indeed grieving for them and what they never got to experience in their life.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And this is the child that you bore, I mean, this is, this, you have their DNA, they have your DNA. Well, I guess that's the same as with the mother and father, but this is your child and it's not supposed to go that way.
No, nobody ever wants to bury their child before they pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, that was a really tough time, of course, in my life. And I went to counseling. I had a very good support system in place to be able to help me. But my daughters were kind of like, they didn't just lose a brother, they kind of lost a mom.
Sure.
Because I just wasn't the same after that. Not that I guess I just didn't have tolerance. Like, I'm sorry you have a hangnail, but I just lost my son. Sorry that, your kid got kicked out of school, but like you have one.
Right.
So I didn't, that was one of the things that I noticed a lot is I just didn't have tolerance for people.
And how did you handle that? Was it something that you just kind of became more quiet when people would say things like that? Or did you indeed kind of voice your thoughts to people? I'm sort of going through something a little bit worse. Was there any kind of conversations with other people, especially family members, or was it just kind of internalized?
Internalized.
Yeah.
It was internalized. Like with my daughters or my husband, like I could say stuff like that, know. And I would, not to them because they were going through their own pain and everything, but yeah, it was kind of internal. And then as the years went by, it got better so that I could tolerate people and the dumb things they said to me.
It really is so different for everyone. See, I'm a very private person, and some people might say, well, you were in radio and you were this stuff, but I was very selective on what I let people know. And even today on social media, most of the things that I put on social media are not private thoughts and private feelings. And I understand some people do that. That's their almost like a diary for them. And that's their thing. How did you handle it? Did you kind of withdraw into yourself? Did you stay very private through a lot of this stuff?
Yes, but I did on like his birthday or Christmas or well, mostly like his birthday, mostly. And the day that he passed, the anniversary of that, I would post, it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, it's been 4 years. And, my heart is still broken, kind of things like that. But like on his birthday and on his death day, those days are really, really hard for me. And so I guess I mostly just kept stuff to myself. I didn't listen to the radio when I drove in the car for over a year because that was my time to be with Jeff. When I was in the car, I would cry. I would talk to him. I would yell at him, and stuff. Like I said, I didn't even listen to the radio till well after a year. But I did walks in his name for parents that have lost their child to accidental overdose or, things like that. So I did walks. I joined groups, kind of making it known to me that I wasn't the only one. And then I would be in these groups and there'd be parents that lost, 2 or 3 children. And I just,
It's a lot. And
it is a lot.
but I do think that knowing that other people are experiencing things in similar ways really does bring people together. It makes a community almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So was your experience with grief in losing your son very similar to your granddaughter? Again, obviously a sudden loss that you weren't really expecting.
Correct. Because at age 14, my son's daughter committed suicide.
Now, this is the same son.
It's the same son that passed.
Mm.
So his 14-year-old daughter committed suicide. It was in 2023. Jeffrey had passed in 2014.
And a lot of this, you think, was due to her father's passing, or was this something that was separate? Do you think issues that were separate?
I think separate. I think separate. I don't really think. I know that he always told me, like, she just felt like she didn't belong, and that seeing me made her sad because she would think of her father.
Yeah.
And, so it was tough for both of us, really.
That's
yeah. So
it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is. And that was just so terrible, terrible, terrible. And she was, of course, younger than Jeffrey when she passed. She was 14. So that was in December of 2023. And then in October of 2024, I lost my husband of 30 years suddenly. And in 3 days, he was gone.
That is just unbelievable that that you would have 3 unexpected losses in relatively a short time period. I mean, you're talking 2014 to 2024.
Yeah. Yeah.
Within a 10-year time span, now you're at 3 losses unexpected.
Right. One, if I back up, my dad passed away after Jeffrey, and it was so hard for me to feel, he was older. It was unexpected though. And he passed away in 2016, but it was so hard for me to feel that grief because it was such a different grief than with Jeffrey. So I felt like I wasn't grieving enough for my father because, Jeffrey just destroyed me.
Sure.
And so then by the time my granddaughter passed in 2023, that was just like Jeffrey. That, and she was 14, talented and beautiful. And, I had just been with her. Her birthday was October 30th, and she lived out of state. So I went down to visit and took her out for lunch and, did all kinds of things. And then 2 months later, she was gone. And so my husband then passed away the following October. And that was horrendous also. He, like I said, in 3 days, he was gone. And I had to decide to stop life support for him because it wouldn't have been good for him, even if he came to again, because he was in a coma. He was in a drug-induced coma, but he was also, I guess, not responding and stuff too. So that was pretty tough. The details of his death were pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, that was something so different. And after he had passed, we were coming up on the 1-year anniversary of my granddaughter's death, which was December 17th. And so I lost my husband in October, and then my mother passed in December. And I just was like, holy crap.
What's next?
I know. was like, okay, God, I know you only give me what you know I can handle, but this is becoming a little too much.
It's a lot. It sure is. I know. I had a similar experience with my mom when she passed, in that she was in the hospital. It was 9 o'clock at night and we were called down to the hospital, and I was the one who had to make the decision. Do we take her off the machines? Do we not take her off the machines? But if we don't take her off the machines, then she'll have no quality of life anymore. And looking back on it now, I feel like it was almost like my greatest gift to her to make that decision. But at the time, it was the most horribly heart-wrenching decision to have to make for someone else's life.
Yes. And, my husband was 65, or, he was just going to be 66 in November. So, he wasn't really that old.
No.
So if you asked me that when I was 12, I would say that was ancient. So and his quality of life would have been no. And so I, and the girls just decided, together, like I couldn't do that to him. He would have been mad at me if, he would have been mad, but I don't think he would have come out. He while he was under in those 3 days. Well, so they put him under to do a test. And so I just said to him, see you on the flip side, because, it was just a test, an invasive test, but still. And he never woke up from that.
Jeez.
There's a lot of people that say, see on the flip side. And every time I hear that, I just want to cringe, because and I had no idea that he would never come out. I had no idea. I don't know if a lot of that was, denial or what, but he also had a heart attack while, he was in a coma and stuff. So, he went through a lot. And I'm so grateful that, number one, he never knew that he was dying, and he didn't feel any pain. Yeah. And the two things that I kind of hold on to.
So for someone, Denys, who's listening to this right now, who's saying, geez, I've been through loss myself. I'm dealing with grief right now. What would you want them to know about how you're dealing with it today and what you're doing to kind of move yourself forward, a one step at a time type of thing? What advice would you give them on how to move forward?
I would say, so grief, like you're feeling, is new, like you don't ever feel that. So you don't know how to do it alone. So I would encourage counseling and somebody that you can talk to day, night, whenever you need to, but keep yourself, close to your family and close so that you feel like you have something else.
Yeah.
That is kind of what I did. Jeffrey's younger daughter is the exact spit of him. She has his hands. She makes the same mannerisms, that same eye roll, the same everything. And she's a lot younger. She's little, but, she's 12. But she helped me a lot because I could see him through her. But the key is that you can't help yourself if you don't know how to. And when you're going through the death of a loved one, you don't know how to get through that because you've never done it before. Right. And even if you've done it, with an older grandparent or a parent, if it's your child or a sibling, that's a lot worse. Feeling like you've never gone through that before. Whoever dies in your family or whatever, it's still gut-wrenching,
But I think each loss is a little bit different.
Yeah.
In the situation and in just who it is and how, like we said earlier, when your parent dies at 83, it's a completely different mindset sometimes than your child dies at 29.
Correct.
So.
Or a granddaughter or grandson or child dies at 14.
Right. Right.
It's just not comprehensible to you at first.
Well, before we wrap up, I like to end each episode with just a few quick lighthearted questions to kind of end us on a good note.
Okay.
So you ready to go?
I am.
All right. What's a small thing that always makes you smile?
Can I say my toy poodle?
Of course. Of course.
I'll say my little Eddie.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's what pets do for us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's your favorite comfort food?
The first thing that came to mind is pizza, but a turkey dinner is right up with it.
That brings me back to childhood. My grandmother making Thanksgiving dinner every year for us. So if you could spend a perfect day anywhere, where would it be?
The beach.
Love it. Are you a sunrise person or a sunset person?
Sunrise, I think, because then you have the whole day to live.
That's so true. And as I get older, I tend to be more of a sunrise than sunset person anyways. Mm-hmm. So it makes perfect sense. Well, Denys, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I think that conversations like this really remind us that even in the middle of grief, connection and understanding and being able to relate to others can really help move us forward in our grief.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What a pleasure to have you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Real People, Real Lives. If today's story resonated with you, make sure to subscribe and leave a review so you won't miss future episodes. And remember, every person has a story worth hearing. Until next time, take care.